All right, so get ready because we're going deep into Southeast Asia this time.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking Laos and Thailand,
Oh, cool.
but not the typical touristy stuff.
Right.
We're getting a much more like raw and personal view.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here?
Well, we've got this stack of YouTube videos from a channel called Sumerasi Channelu.
Sumerasi Channelu.
Yeah, and it's all from the solo traveler's perspective, and he speaks Japanese, so it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I see. So it's like we're getting his unique take as he navigates all of this.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. You wouldn't get these kinds of observations from like a travel blog or anything. It's a lot of, cultural comparisons and a lot of personal reflection.
Oh, that's got to be fascinating.
Yeah.
So where is he exactly?
So he's mostly in Luang Prabang, which is in Laos, and then also Chiang Rai, which is in northern Thailand.
Oh, nice.
And he even crosses the border between the two countries at one point, like on this bridge.
Wow. So it's easy to move between the countries then?
Seems like it. Yeah. It kind of makes me want to try it, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. So what stood out to you about this guy's videos?
Well, the first thing was just how different everything is,
Different how?
Like, it's the little things he notices. For example, he keeps mentioning all the Toyota vehicles he sees in Laos.
Huh, really?
Yeah, like everywhere. It made me realize just how global some brands are,
Yeah, you don't think about that until you see it somewhere totally different, right?
Totally. And he also talks about the currency in Laos, the kip.
Kip.
Yeah, but the denominations are huge. Like thousands and thousands for just basic things.
Oh, wow. So it must be kind of confusing to handle the money at first.
He definitely seems thrown off by it at the beginning. But on a lighter note,
Yeah.
he is super happy about how cheap everything is.
Okay, that's always good.
Right. Especially compared to Japan, which is where he's from.
So what's he eating and drinking over there?
Lots of local beers and street food. That seems to be a highlight.
Yeah, classic Southeast Asia, right? Delicious and affordable.
For sure. But he also brings up something kind of heavy.
Oh, no. What is it?
He sees kids working in like shops and restaurants pretty often.
Yeah. That's a tough one for sure. It's hard to know what to make of that as a visitor.
It really makes you think.
It does. And he also talks about all the stray dogs he keeps seeing.
Oh, yeah. What about them?
Well, he says they're not aggressive at all, which is interesting because in other countries he's traveled to, it's been a problem.
Huh. That's a good point. Like how different cultures view and treat animals is so different.
For sure. So beyond those everyday observations, does he talk about the culture at all?
Oh, yeah. He gets into that too. So Buddhism is huge in both Laos and Thailand.
Right, of course.
And he talks about seeing temples everywhere and the tradition of giving alms to monks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He's really picking up on a lot, isn't he?
He is. And he even suggests that the presence of beggars might be tied to Buddhist beliefs.
In what way?
Well, he says maybe the focus on compassion in Buddhism leads to more people begging as a way to survive.
That's an interesting thought. I wonder if that holds up.
Yeah, it's definitely food for thought. He doesn't just focus on religious stuff, though. He also picks up on these smaller cultural things,
Like what?
like how coffee is seen in Laos and Thailand. He says it's more for energy there.
Oh, so not so much a relaxing drink like in other places.
It seems not. He says in Laos people think of coffee like we think of Red Bull.
Interesting. I wonder if that reflects their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Maybe it's faster paced over there.
Yeah, maybe. And then he points out the work culture, too. He's really surprised by how many women he sees working in construction.
Oh, wow. It's a big difference from what he's used to in Japan.
For sure. He doesn't really dig into why that is, but it makes you think, doesn't it?
Totally. I mean, is it economics? Is it a cultural thing?
Yeah.
It's definitely something to consider.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to his personal reflections yet.
Okay, now that's what I'm really looking forward to. I bet it gets really insightful.
Oh, it definitely does.
All right, we'll lead the way. Okay, so we're diving into this traveler's personal stories now.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
What's the backstory?
Well, it turns out he actually lived in Canada for a while.
Oh, wow, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
years ago, he landed in Canada with barely any money and had just 10 days to find a job and a place to live.
10 days. Oh, man, that's intense.
Right. Talk about a challenge.
Yeah,
And it's so relatable,
absolutely. Anyone who's ever moved abroad knows that feeling of starting from scratch.
Exactly. And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He talks about how tough it was, especially at first.
What's hard about it?
Well, he even describes this car wash job where he felt like people were treating him badly because he was Japanese.
Oh, no. That's awful.
It is. And it just highlights how travel doesn't always shield you from those kinds of negative experiences.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
So luckily, he finds a new job at a sushi restaurant.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and get this, the owner's actually from Osaka too.
No way. What are the chances?
Right, it's like fate stepped in. But even with the job, finding a place to live was still a struggle.
Oh yeah, I bet. Especially in Vancouver.
Exactly. He went to all these viewings for these tiny rooms.
I've been there. It's tough.
It is. So eventually he finds this basement apartment situation.
With roommates, I assume.
Yeah, and it's with a host family and other international students.
Okay, so a pretty typical Canadian housing experience then.
Sounds like it. But it's funny, he describes the host family as very Canadian and talks about how tall and strong they are.
Oh, interesting. That makes you think about how we all have these preconceived notions about different cultures.
Yeah, totally. Even if we don't realize it.
It's true. So was he happy with the living situation?
It seems like it was okay, but he's really honest about wanting to improve his English.
Makes sense. Why else go live with a host family, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he actually says he chose to live with Canadians specifically for that reason.
So he could really immerse himself in the language.
Yeah, he was serious about it.
I respect that.
Yeah.
So did he have any, funny stories from his time in Canada?
Oh, yeah, totally. You have to hear about the time he got snowed in.
Snowed in?
Dead serious. He was living in this basement apartment, and the snow was so bad he couldn't even get out the door.
Wow. I guess you don't get that in Japan.
Not so much. And then there's the Christmas story.
Christmas, that could be tough when you're away from home.
Right, so he's feeling kind of lonely, and the host mom invites him to dinner.
Oh, that was nice of her.
Yeah, but then, get this.
What?
They charge him for it.
Wait, they charged him for Christmas dinner?
Yeah, he was not expecting that. You can tell he was kind of bummed about it.
That's rough. I mean, I guess different cultures have different expectations around hospitality.
For sure. But, okay, so he settled in Canada, working at this sushi place. And then what does he do?
I don't know.
He
What?
buys a motorcycle?
A motorcycle? Well, hold on. So he's just living this Canadian dream now.
Pretty much. And not just any motorcycle either. It's a big American cruiser.
Oh, wow. He went all out.
He did. And then he sets off on this epic road trip down the Pacific Coast Highway.
Seriously. From Canada all the way down to California.
All the way. He even mentions driving like 800 to 1,000 kilometers a day.
Wow. That's wild. I wonder what was going through his mind during all that driving.
Right. It's like this whole other layer of the story. But anyway, he ends up living in San Diego for like 6 months.
I see. So did the road trip change him at all?
It seems like it. He talks about forming this really close bond with the friend he stayed with in San Diego, like a level of trust he hadn't experienced before.
That's amazing. The kind of connection you can only get through shared experiences like that.
Exactly. And it seems like that whole period really solidified his love for travel and documenting his adventures.
Which is what he's doing now.
Right, right. And it all ties back to his passion for music.
Oh yeah, he's a musician too.
He is. He's been a beat maker and producer for rappers for years.
Wow, so he's got this whole other creative side.
He does. And he even uses his own beats as the background music in these videos.
That's so cool. It adds a whole other dimension to his content.
It does. But then things get even deeper. He starts talking about this new interest in self-discovery.
Like what?
Like astrology, numerology, even Kabbalah.
Whoa, he went from motorcycles to Kabbalah. That's quite a shift.
Right. But it kind of makes sense when you think about it. He's been pushing himself outside his comfort zone, experiencing new cultures. It's natural to start looking inward too.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like he's on this journey of personal growth alongside his travels.
Exactly. And then to lighten things up, he tells this hilarious story about buying cigarettes.
Cigarettes. Okay, what about them?
Well, he buys them at 2 different places, and the prices are wildly different.
Really? Like how different?
Like one place is charging way more than the other. It sounds like he got scammed.
Oh no. So it's like a cautionary tale.
Yeah. Be careful out there.
Fair.
But okay, let's shift gears back to Laos.
Okay, back to Southeast Asia.
So he mentions how confused he was by the currency at first, the kip.
With the huge denominations.
Yeah, he gives an example of buying cigarettes for 150,000 kip.
150,000, that sounds like a lot.
It does, but then he explains that it's only about 70 yen, which is like nothing.
Oh, okay. So it's all about understanding the exchange rate.
Exactly. And he also emphasizes how cheap food and drinks are in Laos compared to Japan.
I mean, that's one of the perks of traveling in Southeast Asia, right?
Totally. He seemed especially happy about the cheap beer.
Can't blame him for that. But he also gets real about some of the tougher things he's seen.
Like what?
Like kids working in shops and restaurants.
Yeah, that's always a complex issue. It makes you think about the ethics of tourism and all that.
It does. It's not something you can just ignore.
Definitely. And he also talks about the stray dogs again.
Oh yeah, what about them this time?
Well, he points out that they're not aggressive in Laos, which is different from some other places he's been.
Huh. That's interesting. I wonder what influences how different cultures treat animals.
It's a good question, right? Could be religious beliefs, could be economics, who knows?
It's worth thinking about. So what else does he talk about?
Well, he gets back into the cultural influence of Buddhism.
Okay, that makes sense. It's so central to life in Laos.
Yeah, he talks about all the temples and the tradition of monks receiving alms.
It's like a daily ritual there, right?
Seems like it. And then he makes this connection between Buddhism and the prevalence of beggars.
Interesting.
Tell me more.
Well, he wonders if the Buddhist emphasis on compassion might contribute to begging as a way to survive.
That's deep. It's like he's seeing these cultural connections everywhere.
He is. And then he shifts to something a little lighter. He contrasts how coffee is perceived in Laos and Thailand compared to other places.
Oh yeah, how is it different?
He says it's viewed more as an energy drink, like people drink it to wake up and get going.
Really? Not so much the relaxing coffee shop vibe.
Apparently not. And then he talks about the work culture again.
Okay, what about it this time?
Well, he's surprised by how many women he sees working in construction.
Oh wow, that's definitely different from what we're used to seeing in many parts of the world.
It is. It makes you question all those assumptions we have about gender roles.
For sure. It's like he's constantly challenging our worldview.
He is. And you know what? That's what I love about this deep dive.
It's not just about pretty pictures and travel tips. It's about getting a real glimpse into another person's experience and seeing the world through their eyes.
I totally agree. And it makes you think about your own experiences and how your culture shapes your perspective.
Exactly. It's like he's holding up a mirror to us in a way.
And making us question everything we thought we knew.
Which is a good thing, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's how we learn and grow.
So where do we go from here?
Well, there's still more to explore. Let's dive back into his observations about Laos and see what other gems we can uncover.
So we've talked a lot about Laos, but he doesn't just stay there. He also spends some time in northern Thailand.
Oh yeah, in Chiang Rai, right?
Exactly. And it's cool to see how his observations shift as he moves between the two countries.
So what's different about Thailand?
Well, one thing that caught my attention was him talking about people driving through red lights.
Seriously, like just ignoring them?
It seems like it's pretty common there, at least from what he saw.
Wow, that's so different from what we're used to. It makes you wonder about those cultural differences, you know?
It does. Like, what makes some cultures more rule-oriented than others?
That's a good question. But let's move on to something more appetizing.
Oh, yeah. He raves about this northern Thai dish called khao soi.
Khao soi. What's that?
It's like a curry noodle soup, and he makes it sound amazing.
I bet. So what's in it?
Well, he describes this rich coconut broth and tender meat and all these fragrant spices.
Oh man. Now I'm hungry.
Right? It's making me want to try it myself.
You too.
Yeah.
He also mentions loving sticky rice, which is a staple in that part of the world.
Yeah, and he even shows himself eating it with his hands like the locals do.
Nice. That's what it's all about, right? Immersing yourself in the culture.
Exactly. Even the little things like that.
For sure. So besides the food, what else stands out to you about Thailand?
Well, it's interesting. He points out that there aren't many vending machines there.
Really? Why not?
He says it's because everything is sold in these small local shops.
Oh, I see. So it's more about supporting those businesses.
Yeah, and it creates a different kind of street culture, right?
Makes sense. Like you're more likely to interact with people instead of just getting your stuff from a machine.
Totally. He also talks about how common it is to find family-run guest houses and tour companies.
This is nice. It's more personal, you know?
It is. And then there's this detail that really struck me. He mentions seeing security guards at ATMs everywhere.
Huh. That's different. You don't really see that here.
Not so much. It makes you realize how our ideas about safety are shaped by where we live.
Yeah, for sure. But let's talk about that border crossing again. The one from Laos to Thailand.
Oh yeah, that was cool. He rented a motorbike and rode it across the Friendship Bridge.
That sounds epic. I could just picture him cruising along, enjoying the scenery.
It's such a great visual, and it highlights how easy it is to travel between those countries.
Yeah, you can just hop on a motorbike and go.
He even says the Thai immigration officers were super friendly.
Nice. That always makes a difference.
It does. But throughout his travels, he keeps coming back to his love for music.
Oh yeah, he's a beat maker, right?
He is, and he's really passionate about incorporating his music into his videos.
So he's not just a traveler, he's an artist too.
Exactly, and that's what makes his content so unique. It's this blend of travel and music and personal reflection.
He's really created something special.
He has, and it's inspiring to see someone pursuing their passions like that.
Absolutely. It makes you want to get out there and explore the world and maybe even tap into your own creativity.
It's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
It has. From the bustling markets of Laos to the peaceful temples of Thailand, we've really gotten a unique perspective on Southeast Asia.
And we've learned so much about this traveler along the way. His struggles, his triumphs, his passions. It's been a privilege to follow his journey.
I agree. And hopefully it's inspired our listeners to embark on their own adventures, both external and internal.
That's what it's all about, right? Expanding our horizons and discovering new possibilities.
Exactly. So where will your next journey take you?